The Avril Lavigne song, Complicated. Wouldn't it be great if you learned that and sang that? Like did a little karaoke with Complicated as a little FU to Mark Murphy, and we see that on social media? Wait, that would be nice if that happens.
Hold on, I just lost a piece of my brain. How do you know Avril Lavigne and Complicated?
You don't know me.
Not listening to Hits
you
One.
Think you know me.
Yeah, I know you pretty good.
Maybe I have been.
You don't look like the kind of guy that's going down into the barn listening to Avril Lavigne and singing Complicated. Opening the show tomorrow, Florio dancing to Avril Lavigne.
Yeah, disturbing, to say the least. All right. Is that even the song? Are we going to have to pay somebody now? Is that the song? That didn't sound like the
I
song.
hope so. I hope it's you. I hope
stuff.
you got to pay Avril
Please.
Lavigne like $500,000. No. That would be awesome.
Avril Lavigne, tell your lawyers to turn off the meter. That is not your song that is being infringed upon on this program. All right, no excuses for 2021. We had kicked this around as it relates to quarterbacks. We've mentioned it as it relates to a few quarterbacks. This is broadened to anyone in the league. Chris, go ahead. I'll give you the first pick. Who has no excuses for 2021?
You know, I'm gonna go with Daniel Jones to lead off this draft. All right, I know we've talked about him a few times here throughout. This. I'm a Giants fan, of course. They're always on my radar, but I look at this as a year to go. Hey, the offensive line's in a pretty good spot. It's, we're in year 3, right? Year 3. Year 3, and they got, Saquon back, Kenny Golladay, Darius Slayton pretty good. I think there's enough talent here. It's another year in the Jason Garrett system to where I look at it, and I'm not sitting here, I'm going to say I'm blaming wins and losses and everything on Daniel Jones, but I expect to see really solid, consistent football play from Daniel Jones. There is no excuses. Everything is in a positive, light or anything like that on the Giants' offensive side of the ball, and it's on him a little bit this year. There's no doubt.
I agree with you completely. It's up or out for Daniel Jones.
Probably.
He either becomes what Josh Allen became or something close to it. Now, that may be a little bit too much to expect,
right.
but we want a similar jump. And if he doesn't iron out some of the flaws, holding the ball for too long, et cetera, they've invested money, they've invested draft picks in making the offense better, and Saquon Barkley's going to be back. He's going to be healthy. No excuses for Daniel Jones. That would have been my first pick as well. I'm going to go with Sean McVay, and he's embracing the heightened expectations. He's heightening the expectations by constantly praising Matthew Stafford, but this is a team that got to the divisional round without Stafford. Stafford's great. Stafford's this. Stafford's that. Cam Akers is going to be the new workhorse tailback.
Right.
They've got that great defense with Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald. No excuses for this team. Now, you don't have to win the division, but you better be able to go on the road in the playoffs and win after you survive that fight to see who wins one of the best divisions in football. And this is a guy who got to the Super Bowl in his second year. There's been some talk of burnout. He addressed that with Albert Breer recently, too. He said, I feel 30 again. Sean, you're 35. I hope you feel 30. It's been a hard 4 years. If at 35 he feels like 30 is a major difference. So I just wonder whether he's wound a little too tight, and I wonder how much time he really has left before he goes and takes broadcasting money. But this year, no excuses to not at least get to the divisional round, if not to the NFC Championship game, and maybe even back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no excuses to the very fact of, we expect them to be, a special offense. I think that's the one thing. It should be an offense that's certainly towards the top, dancing around the top 5-ish, I think, with that type of talent. I'm with you.
It should be a great defense, too.
Yeah.
It should be a great defense, too, with all the money they have invested and the picks they have invested in.
Their big thing, like we've talked about, is depth of the football team. They've been flirting with danger. They are a very hey, our starting 22, and then there's a major drop-off. And that's the only thing I worry about them. And, McVay, Stafford, I think either one you could have probably used for that pick right there, right? And I was going to use Stafford next, but since you did McVay, I'm going to change and not do that. I think the next one I'm going to have to go with here is I'm going to go with Sam Darnold, the Carolina Panthers. Been a lot of talk there, and there is no excuses for him this year either. He's in a place that got a pretty good system, and unlike the Jets and where he was at, where the Jets dropped the ball and lack of support, that excuse does not apply here. with the Carolina Panthers. Another team that's kind of got their offensive line in order, but you got Christian McCaffrey, you got Robbie Anderson, who can fly, and you got DJ Moore, who I have a man crush on, is a budding superstar. So I think you look at it like that, system, good protection, run game, running back who's awesome in the pass game, and 2 good receivers. There should be some positive results from Sam Darnold this year. Not, again, that we have to see Pro Bowl or All-Pro or they got to be the number 1 seed, but we certainly should see a guy where we go, damn, that looks a little bit more like a top 5 pick in the draft a few years ago.
I am going to do next something that I ridicule you for.
Oh, you're going to pick a whole organization.
I am.
You're picking the Browns, aren't you?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm picking the Titans.
Ooh.
I'm picking the Titans.
Okay.
When they go all in for Julio Jones, no excuses this year. Win the division, make noise in the postseason, compete with the big boys in the AFC because you've got the 4-headed monster on offense. Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, Julio Jones. You made this big move. Your defense is better. You should be a high-level contender. Just 2 years removed from being in the AFC Championship game. No excuses for the Titans this year.
Yeah, okay. I wrote down Ryan Tannehill on my list, a little bit for the similar reasons of what you're talking about there. You're right. That was a big-time move. You're going to have, higher expectations of your football team for sure. I honestly was thinking about doing the Browns organization, but I'm not gonna just because I don't want to do organization back-to-back here. But they are one where I look at it and go like, there's no excuses. Like, it should be playoffs, and it should be one playoff win. And maybe not. Maybe like that should be like the low bar for the way that team's set up right now and the way it looks. So but I'm gonna pick instead Carson Wentz. Big year for Carson Wentz. Again, not that we got to see MVP, but we need to see really good football play. There's a system. There's a support. There's a supporting cast around him with the Colts. It's one of the better offensive lines in football. We know they got Jonathan Taylor who can run the ball. Yeah, receivers, maybe not superstars, but a lot of good that we talk about all the time. It's a very consistent, well-rounded group, and we'll see if maybe a Paris Campbell or somebody else jumps out. But, I do think that he's a guy that, we can't play the angle of the injury, Nick Foles. The Eagles were crappy and did a bad thing, and the Jalen Hurts, that's all out the window. You got to see positive stuff from Wentz this year.
And see, I've assessed these choices from the perspective of whether it's a player getting in a better situation or a team consciously making an upgrade. It eliminates excuses, and that's why, for me, the last one is going to be Mike Zimmer, the coach of the Vikings, because there were excuses last year. The excuses last year were, I didn't have the players on defense. I didn't have Danielle Hunter. We didn't have fans for our home games. That was a legitimate excuse. One of the best home field advantages in all of sports, and you don't have it. So this year, they've got a better defense. They've got fans back. Their offense is better. You've got Justin Jefferson, who's already blossomed as one of the best receivers in the NFL. Dalvin Cook's still in his prime. Kirk Cousins in that system that they have managed to keep, even though Gary Kubiak retired, his son Clint takes over. No excuses for Mike Zimmer. This is a year that I feel like, not that he would get fired if he gets to the playoffs and doesn't win a game or two, but I feel like this is the year when you look at the NFC that maybe it's not unreasonable to expect him to win a game or two in the postseason against this field, unless he comes up against the Buccaneers before the championship round.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.